The black Mercedes-AMG came to a stop at 8:17 on a Wednesday morning on Kwame Nkrumah Avenue, right at the edge of Makola Market, where the morning light hit the pavement like copper. The driver did not turn off the engine. Inside, in the back seat with the tinted windows and the leather smell of something expensive, Kolade Owusu Boateng sat with his phone in one hand and a briefcase across his lap, prepared to be delivered to the meeting that would close the largest real estate deal in Accra that year. He was 41 years old, owned 4 buildings in East Legon and 2 in cantonments, and had not walked through Makola Market since the morning 22 years ago, when he left it for the last time with a scholarship letter folded into the front pocket of a second-hand school shirt. He was not supposed to look out the window. He almost did not. But something made him look, the way something sometimes does. Some flicker at the edge of attention that the mind processes before the eyes do. And when he looked, the world outside the tinted glass rearranged itself into a shape he had not seen in over 2 decades. A woman, small and thin, sitting on an overturned wooden crate beside a table of plantains and garden eggs and small heaps of dried pepper wrapped in torn cellophane. Her back curved the way backs do after too many hours bent over too many things. She was wearing a blue and white print blouse, the kind sold in bundles at Contamonto, clean but faded at the shoulder seams. She was arranging pepper into piles with the same precision, the same unhurried deliberateness that she had once used to write equations on a blackboard. The phone rang in his hand. He did not answer it. He told the driver to stop. The driver had already stopped. "Wait here," Kolade said, and stepped out into the market noise. Her name was Mrs. Comfort Asiedu Mensah, and she was 68 years old, and she had been Kolade Owusu Boateng's mathematics teacher for 3 years at Achimota Secondary School. The teacher who had caught him doing advanced calculus in a notebook he thought he was hiding under his desk, who had stayed behind after class on 47 consecutive Thursdays to teach him things the curriculum did not reach, who had written the recommendation letter that secured the scholarship, who had stood on the roadside at dawn on the morning of his departure for Kumasi and pressed 15 cedis into his hand. "Don't use it for food," she had said. "Use it for books." He stood 4 meters away from her, and she had not looked up. Comfort Asiedu Mensah had been a mathematics teacher for 31 years at Achimota. She had retired in 2021, when her pension was calculated, adjusted for 3 different government rate revisions, and ultimately valued at a monthly sum that was not enough to pay for the medications she had begun taking 2 years earlier for the blood pressure that had started at 168 over 112, and had been managed unevenly since. Her husband, Emmanuel Asiedo, had died in 2019. The house they had bought together in Medina in 1997 was technically still hers, but the roof had required repairs she could not do, and the back room had a damp problem that the landlord of the adjoining property had caused and refused to settle. There was a nephew in Kumasi who sent money when he remembered. He did not always remember. She had started the market stall in March 2024, 14 months ago. Her neighbor, a woman called Ama Boateng, had a cousin who sold garden eggs wholesale in Tema. The arrangement was informal. Comfort bought 60 cedis worth of vegetables early each morning, arranged them on the table she had brought from her kitchen, and sold them by noon or by 2 p.m., depending on the day. On a good day, she made 35 cedis profit. On a slow day, she made 12. The calculation she had used to determine the minimum daily sales figure needed to cover medications, transport, and food was still precise: 28.50 cedis. She had not missed that number more than 3 times in a month. She was a person who kept records. There was a small green notebook in the front pocket of the bag she kept under the table. In it she recorded every day: date, stock purchased, price, sales, profit, weather. Any observation worth keeping. The notebook had 211 entries. Each entry was written in the same small, level handwriting that had once filled 4 blackboards per day for 31 years. Kolade stood at the edge of the stall for a moment. She did not acknowledge. Then a customer arrived beside him, a woman in a head tie who began sorting through the plantains, and Comfort looked up. She looked at the customer first. Then she looked at Kolade. She did not say his name. She pressed her lips together once, the way she used to when a student gave an answer that was almost right but not quite. Then she said, "Kolade, you've grown fat." He had not expected that. He laughed, the way he had not laughed in a professional setting in several years, from somewhere below the chest. "Good morning, Mrs. Mensah," he said. I look fine," she said. "Are you buying plantains?" He was not buying plantains. He bought 12 cedis worth of plantains. He stood there while she wrapped them in old newspaper, with the efficiency of someone who had done it 3,000 times. The customer beside him left. The market moved around them. A man with a cart of sachet water called out his price somewhere behind Kolade's right ear. A bus on the main road groaned through a gear change. "How long have you been here?" Kolade said. 14 months, she said. She did not look up from the wrapping. "Mrs. Mensah, don't," she said. Quietly, not unkindly. "I know what you're about to say. Don't." He was silent. She placed the wrapped plantains in a black plastic bag and held it out to him. Her hands, he noticed, were not the hands he remembered. The knuckles were larger. There was a scar on the left one, from something recent. He took the bag. He didn't know what he was supposed to do with it. "My driver is outside," he said. "I can see your car from here," she said. "It's blocking the drainage channel. The man with the groundnuts will complain." "I want to take you somewhere," he said. "I want to talk." She arranged 3 garden eggs into a new pile. She looked at them. She looked at him. "What time is your meeting?" He had forgotten about the meeting. He checked his watch. He called his PA from where he stood and said 5 words, "Move everything to this afternoon." Then he put the phone in his jacket pocket and looked at Comfort Asidhu Mensah on her wooden crate, with her green notebook under the table and her blood pressure medications in a small Ziploc bag in her bag's side pocket. He had seen them, sitting beside a folded handkerchief. "I'll be back at noon," he said. "I need 2 hours." She studied him the way she had studied him across a classroom for 3 years, the way she used to study a proof before deciding whether it was sound. "Noon," she said. And then she turned back to her garden eggs. If this story is already sitting in your chest the way I think it is, stay with me. Because what Kolade discovered in those 2 hours, and what Comfort had never told a single person in 22 years, is what changed everything. He went to the meeting. He closed the deal. He was back on Kwame Nkrumah Avenue at 11:58 a.m. He had sent his driver ahead to find somewhere to park. He walked the last 100 meters on foot through the market crowd, past the fabric sellers and the phone case stalls, and the women with trays of fried yam on their heads, with 12 cedis worth of plantains in his hand that he was still carrying. She was packing up when he arrived. She worked methodically, wrapping the unsold garden eggs in newspaper, folding the cellophane pepper portions into a container she had brought from home, lifting the plastic tub that served as her display surface to carry it back to the container she stored things in overnight. He stood and watched her. He did not try to help. He understood, somehow, that helping would be the wrong thing. When she was finished, she looked at the bag he was still carrying. "You walked around Makola Market for an hour with plantains," she said. 20 minutes, he said. "I was only 2 minutes late to the meeting." She made a sound that was not quite a laugh. They walked together to a chop bar at the back of the market that she clearly knew well. The woman at the counter greeted her by name and brought 2 bottles of Voltic water without being asked. They sat at a plastic table under a zinc roof. It was not the kind of place Kolade Owusu Boateng had been seen in for approximately 15 years. He did not think about that. He said, "Tell me what you need." She said, "I need you to listen first and offer later, not the other way around." So he listened. In 2019, when Emmanuel died, Comfort had discovered that the life insurance policy he had believed was still active had lapsed 7 months earlier. A missed payment she had not known about during a period when Emmanuel's health was declining, and the administrative details of their life had slipped. The payout she had counted on, 45,000 cedis, did not exist. What existed was the house, the pension that was then 9 months from starting, and a school fees debt of 6,700 cedis for their youngest granddaughter, their daughter Alma's child, that Alma could not cover that year. Comfort had paid the school fees from her retirement savings account. The pension, when it started, was less than the calculation she had done beforehand. There was a tier adjustment she had not anticipated. By February 2022, she had done the mathematics, which had taken her 1 evening and 1 page of her green notebook, and understood that the monthly shortfall between her pension and her minimum required expenses was 580 cedis. She had 2 options. She could sell the house in Medina, or she could work. She chose to work. She had tried to consult at 2 schools in the area, one in Adenton, one in Medina itself. Both had said they would call back. Neither had. "I considered selling," she said. She was looking at the zinc roof, not at Kolade. "But that house, Emmanuel and I chose every tile in it. We mixed the paint ourselves in the back. There's a wall in the hallway that we painted 4 times before we found the right color." She paused. "It's yellow now." Kolade's hands were on the table. He did not move them. "The vegetable stall is fine," she said. "I am not suffering. I want you to understand that. I made a calculation and I executed it. I wake at 5:30. I take the Trotro de Tema. I collect the stock. I am at the market by 7:45. It is physical, and it is repetitive, but I was a teacher for 31 years. I know how to show up." She finally looked at him. "What I want you to understand is that I did not plan this. And I do not want pity." "Then what do you want?" he said. She folded her hands around her water bottle. "I want to teach," she said. "I want to sit in front of students who are going to become something, and I want to teach them mathematics the way mathematics should be taught. Not the syllabus only, the thinking underneath the syllabus." She pressed her lips together again. "I have been selling garden eggs for 14 months. I have not lost a single formula." Kolade was quiet for a moment. The zinc roof ticked in the noon heat. A generator somewhere 2 buildings over cycled off. He reached into his jacket and took out his phone. He opened his contacts. He scrolled to a name, Dr. Pauline Nwosu, Director of Education Programs, Owusu Boateng Foundation, and he looked at the name for a moment. He put the phone down. "I started a foundation 3 years ago," he said. "We run a supplementary mathematics program for secondary students in 5 schools in Greater Accra. We've been looking for a curriculum lead since January." Comfort Asiedu Mensah looked at him. "It isn't charity," he said quickly. "The role has a salary, real salary. Benefits. It would require you to develop the curriculum, train the tutors, assess the students. It would require you to work." He stopped. He looked down. "I'm telling you this poorly." "You're telling it fine," she said. "I should have found you years ago," he said. "I've thought about you. I should have. Kolade." She said it the way she used to say a student's name when they were about to spiral into unnecessary guilt. I am not here because of something you failed to do. I am here because of a lapsed insurance policy and a government pension revision and a granddaughter whose school fees needed paying. She set the water bottle down. Those are my reasons, not you. He was quiet again. This was the thing about Comfort Asiedu-Mensah. She had always been precise about causality. She had always insisted that her students trace the actual chain of events, not the emotionally satisfying shortcut. If you say X caused Y, she used to say, show me the link. Don't guess. Show me, he said. Will you consider it? She said, I'll need to see the program documentation. What you've built so far, what the gaps are, what the students look like. I can have it to you by Friday, he said. What's the salary? He told her. She calculated something behind her eyes. He could see it, the same expression, the same fraction of a second of internal arithmetic that he had watched happen across her face for 3 years while she stood at a blackboard. That covers the shortfall, she said. And then some. It's not a favor, he said again. I need someone who can think the way you think. I know, she said. That's why I'll consider it. She stood and picked up her bag from the floor, and she looked at him across the plastic table in the chopped bar under the zinc roof, with the trotro noise coming through from the main road. You're still holding those plantains. He looked down at the black bag in his hand. He had been holding them for 3 hours. Keep them, she said. I made 12 sedis. That's a reasonable morning. She did not take the trotro home that day. He had the driver take her. She sat in the back seat of the black Mercedes-AMG on Kwame Nkrumah Avenue, and she looked out the window as they moved through Accra, and she did not say what she was thinking. She pressed her hand flat against the leather beside her, once, and then she took it back. She called him on Thursday. She said she had read the documentation. She said there were 3 structural gaps in the curriculum, and she could address them by the start of the 3rd term cycle. She said she had one condition, that the program include a home visit component for students who were not progressing, because in her experience, mathematics failure at the secondary level was almost always a home problem first and a skill problem second. He agreed without hesitation. By the first week of June, Comfort Asiedu-Mensah walked into a classroom in Adenton for the first time in 3.5 years. There were 24 students in the room, 14 girls and 10 boys, between the ages of 14 and 16. Some of them were there because they wanted to be. Some of them were there because their parents had enrolled them without asking. She recognized the difference immediately. She had been recognizing it for 31 years. She stood at the front of the room. She picked up a marker. She looked at them for a long moment, the way she had always started, just looked, so they understood she was seeing each of them specifically and not the room generally. We're going to start, she said. Not with the syllabus. We're going to start with a question. She wrote on the board. She stepped back. Take 10 minutes. Work it through. Show me every step, not just the answer. The answer is the least interesting thing about mathematics. 3 rows back, a girl with glasses put her pencil to paper so fast it made a small sound. Comfort Asiedu-Mensah noticed. She always did. The Owusu Boateng Foundation expanded the supplementary program to 9 schools by December of that year. The curriculum that Comfort developed over the following 8 months, 340 pages, spiral-bound with margins full of notes, was adopted as a supplementary reference by 2 schools in Kumasi who had heard about it from a teacher who had sat in on one of Comfort's training sessions and driven 3 hours to attend a second one. The Ama in the Chop Bar on Kwame Nkrumah Avenue still sees Comfort sometimes, on Saturdays, eating wakey with shito and fried plantain. She comes in at 8:30 and she always takes the same table under the zinc roof. She brings the green notebook. She is usually writing something in it. The vegetable stall has not been there since June. Dexter Obi had thought he was removing a problem when he gave Comfort the overcalculated pension and the unanswered consultation requests. He had not thought about what she was carrying. That is the nature of institutional indifference. It processes what it can see. It weighs the dress, not the person wearing it. It counts the coins on the counter, not the intelligence that earned them. What she was carrying could not be weighed. It could not be processed. It was 31 years of understanding how young minds break open and what they need inside that moment of breaking, and how to stand at the front of a room full of children who are afraid of being wrong and make them willing to be wrong. That is not a skill that appears on a pension form. You can reassign a person. You can lower their monthly figure by 580 cedis. You can give them a market stall's worth of space and assume they have become small. But what a person has built inside themselves over 31 years of showing up, that does not adjust to a revised rate. It does not pack away into a tub at noon. It wakes at 5:30 and takes the trotro and arrives early and opens the green notebook and keeps the record day after day, whether or not anyone is watching. The ones who keep the records are the ones who know, when it matters, exactly what they are owed and exactly what they can build. Subscribe for more stories about hidden strength, quiet power, and the people the world overlooks until they change everything. Here is the question I want you to sit with. If the person who shaped the most important years of your life is sitting on a crate at a market stall this morning, not because they failed, but because the system failed them, what is the one thing you have the power to do? Not what you wish you could do, what you actually today have the power to do. Leave your answer in the comments. I really want to read it. I'll see you in the next one.